Why do I choose Unreal Engine over Unity? Hello, my name is Casero Juan, and now I'm going to tell you my story about why I choose Unreal instead of Unity. There's other options too available, but in that time there were only called my attention those two. Long story short, I have an older machine. I use GameMaker to make a few games, so JoJo Games decided to upgrade to GameMaker 2. That was cool. It has many features. The one that I didn't like was the price. The price was kind of high. I could upgrade my machine or pay YoYo for its new GameMaker 2. So I decided to upgrade my machine and try one of the engines that I found available that time. In one hand Unreal Engine, in the other Unity. Initially I chose Unreal for three reasons. One, to focus that I didn't know too much about Unreal Engine. So this is the ones that caught my attention. Unreal uses C++. I have experience with C++ programming, so I thought this was a bonus for me, but at the end I ended programming in Blueprints. Graphics. Graphics looks a lot better in Unreal than Unity. In early demos that I could see, Unreal usually have by default the awesome graphics. That's why I perceive. Later I understand that it was due some pipeline mechanism that Unity has that Unreal doesn't. Many known titles that I really love were made in Unreal. Those AAA games that I used to play a lot, they were made in Unreal, so it was a big plus that if they use that, I want to use that, I want to have that power. So that's why I decided to try Unreal Engine first. I install it, I follow some tutorials, basic tutorials, and I started adding some of my old models because I used to do in GameMaker games like Donkey Kong Country, like you have pre-rendered graphics, and because I suck at drawing, I use that, I render two sprite sheets and I use them. So I have the original models and I upload to Unreal, and it was amazing, it could handle that easily. So it was impressive for me. I decided to try my first game after a few months. I made speed pods. Since then I've been using Unreal, so I'm going to tell you now why I think it's a good tool for me. Blueprints. Blueprints are the best. You could argue if you're not a good programmer you use blueprints, but I don't care. Programming, you write something in one language and the machine translates it to another. So programming is programming. It's very comfortable to write code in blueprints. If you're a newbie, it helps you a lot because it helps visually to understand what you need, what you're not using or connecting to properly works. So it really helps new people in this field. I could say it's useful for advanced people too, because I didn't know what functions or tools have Unreal. It was easier to find there because you drag a line from a certain type, a certain variable type. It tells you what you can do with that. It's easier to find. If you're new in programming, I would recommend you. Don't look for C++. No, if you hear something that say, oh, but it's better. Yeah, it's better. More complicated, but it's better. You want to make a game, you don't want to make, a perfect thesis about C++ games. You can do anything you can in Blueprints. There are a few exceptions, but in time it has changed. For example, at the beginning, Blueprints couldn't handle quaternions. It's quite an advanced tool for rotations, but it's really useful. And it didn't have, you have to go to C++ to make quaternions, to be able to handle quaternions. But now it has, in certain versions, they have adapted more and more things. Example, maps, they didn't have maps, they only have plain arrays. And with time, blueprints are getting more and more function that it comes with C++ version. The problem is this, it's always one step behind C++. You couldn't, they first implement in C++ and then they change it to blueprints. That's not a bad thing if you don't want the last of the last thing to, your game probably won't need it, especially if you're new in this field. What are blueprint limitations? First, there has some limitation that C++ doesn't have. For example, I really miss a lot multiple heritage, that you could make an object heritage from different parents. Blueprint can handle that. But it has some other methods that helps, like interfaces. But it's quite advanced topic. But really good and useful. There are tools after all. It's like Mega Man. Once you defeat it, understand it, it's part of you. It's a weapon, not it's a weapon against you. It's a weapon you can use to defeat your enemies. Oh, multidimensional arrays. Yeah, that's one of the big problems of blueprints, is that they can handle big or large number of variables in arrays. You still can nativize, I think it's called, where it's a code closer to C++ but made in blueprints. Nice feature, but still they can handle large arrays. I could do that probably better in C++. But if you have good programming practice, you don't need that. You learn that you must handle the least amount of data possible. That's more optimal. I know in Unity you have C#. That's a good language. I don't have any complaints about that. And the lack of pointers helps a lot. I couldn't compare C# against blueprints. It has many advantages. They're different. But Unity has some visual programming tools that are implementing recently, but I heard that they don't work as intended as blueprints. Blueprints have many years in work, so they guarantee to work. The marketplace. Unity marketplace is huge. That's better. Maybe. Unreal has many of those things free inside Unreal, so you don't need to add them. That's good. I mean, if you need a car component, if you need something multiplayer, if you need a water system, they are already implemented in Unreal Engine. What's the caveat? If you see already all there, it's really complicated for you. You think it's huge, and it is. It's not a tool, it's many tools in one. Unreal is that. If you separate all these features and just have the bare bones of the project, that's Unity. And that's good and bad. If you see everything suddenly in the screen, yeah, it's really complicated. You feel like it's overwhelming. But it's not that way. I recommend you to select what to learn and just learn what you're going to use in your game. Don't try to learn everything and later try to make a game, because it's impossible. It's so many tools. There are people just focusing on one thing in Unreal, sound, particles, other things like that, Java exclusive, and it's too deep. There are people who make marvelous works in their field. Multiplayer. Unreal has network in mind. That's why it's so complicated. It has many details. You will see pound characters, player controller, AI controller, game mode, many others. And if you're going to make a single player game, they are not needed. Yes, you could, for best practice, put some code in one place and others in other place, but in reality it's not needed. Why? They make sense once when you try to make multiplayer games. You need to put certain parts of your code in certain parts, because all of those classes have different access. Some are controlled by the server, some are controlled by the player, some are information that's only shared for you. For example, if you make a flag object, it doesn't make sense to replicate it. It just wave around. Doesn't matter if all the players see the same flag waving in the same exact way. They won't notice that difference. You could argue, yes, but if you're a perfectionist, you need to that way send it to all the players. Yes, but it will cost. It will cost some resource to share it again around, and that's not the best way to do that. But the player must be replicated against everyone, but they need to communicate to the server, so you won't be cheating. So it's important that everybody knows your position, but only the player owning that character could control that character. There's some interaction about who controls who and who permits what. Another example is your HUD that you only see in your screen. That's only matters to you. Doesn't need to be replicated to other players. You just care about you, so there are less information travel to the network. So we can see there are some things that are important to everyone, things that are only important to you, and things that are not important. All that structural hierarchies are, I think, in those different classes of structures that Unreal has. Unity doesn't have that by default, so it sounds a lot easier because you don't need to think about that. But if you learn Unreal's way, it will make easier to you to make games in the future, multiplayer games in the future, if you do that, because it's really difficult. Unreal is not just used in games industry. That's a plus, a really big plus, because they not only make money for games. Unity is more broad used by indie game devs. Unreal is more used with AAA games. That's a big caveat, because Unreal is taking more money for less people because there are bigger games, there are bigger companies, so they have more money to spend and to perfection his engine. On the other side, Unity is having problems with that because they have many customers, but they pay too little. They aren't trying many crazy things that they are messing around in the past. I hope they get better, because many people is scared of Unity right now. Still, they have a big user database. Unreal is not only used in video games. They are used, another income that they have is Fortnite, their gold mine. It's not just a game that is made in their own engine that shows the power of their engine. People could understand you can do this in Unreal. These effects, this thing, this everything. It works on mobile. It's tests the engine capabilities, and it gives them money, a lot of money. It's a win-win for them in the marketing aspect and in the economical aspect. They're using Unreal in movies too, and in architectural visualizations. Unreal is changing their license so they can fit better to those people, because Unreal is a business and need to charge people for making these kind of things. The best thing about Unreal is that they first try to wait until you are successful, and after you win, I think, $1 million, they start charging you. That's really good, because it's like a mutual cooperation. I think it was in The Mandalorian that they started to use Unreal to change the backgrounds. Like, it was really easy if they want a rock or they want to change some things in the background. It was easily done in Unreal, contrary to the old method that it was pre-rendered. So they have to pass it to some Maya 3D Max to render the background. But it was like a separate project and separate branch. So if you have one mistake, it could lead to some problems. But if you're watching in the scene what they're filming, what they're changing, or something they want to move a little thing, it's easier in Unreal. So they are winning that race in that field. Why is this important? Maybe because if you see the future as a company, it seems to be more stable. Yes, there are some news about some fires. In short, it seems more stable than Unity right now. Unity has many independent games, titles in it, but they pay a lot less than AAA titles. Its users numbers is really high, but not all of them make money, so they're having a hard time and they're quite desperate for money. Wish them the best. I don't know what happens in the future. Maybe it all change, who knows, but I think it's important to think about this, because I was using Game Maker and I didn't see it coming down, and it took me by surprise. If you already know what path the company is taking, you could maybe go in advance and try something, like learning something new or something like that. Many Unity users are doing this because they are afraid of the company as it goes right now. Still, it's a really good option. I'm not saying that otherwise. Unity has tried to enter the market of the movies too, but the problem with Unity is that it's not easy, because its default is a pipeline that doesn't show too much. so it's more complicated for them to make them easily look good. Some other small details. Sound. Maybe you think, okay, I need just something to play a 3D sound in the scene and we're fine with that. Unreal goes beyond that. It has a cue system that makes sounds different, like a blueprints programming nodes for sounds. For example, if you have a machine gun, not every shot must sound the same. You can add variation in the pitch and in the speed, so every bullet sounds a little different, and it gives you a lot more of realism. Yes, you could do that in Unity, but programming, so it's harder. It's not the end of the world, but it takes time. Anything that can save you time, it's welcome. Remember, making games is really hard, so you have to think in time too. Particles in Unreal, if you think Unity has a good particle system, Unreal is awesome. It's more complex, that's good and bad. And I'm using the old system, Cascade. The new system, Niagara, is far better. You can do more interactive things with the particles. Destruction! Unreal has integrated some destruction physics. You can fracture meshes so they can break in real time, but they are pre-calculated. That's good for buildings going down, rock destroying. That's a good effect. And it's easy to do with physics. Graphics and materials. Materials in Unreal are awesome. They all shaders, they are not just materials, and in the sense Unity take materials. Materials in Unity are quite fixed, and all depends the pipeline you're using. In Unreal is like another level of blueprints. You can see what you're doing each step of your programming of the shader. And they are all PBR, physical-based rendering, so they look amazing. They are implementing a new method now, but it's difficult to be up. Documentation. For me, Unreal documentation is really good, but not all people think like that. Why? It's really short. It says this function does this and this, goodbye. For me, I like that kind of documentation. But many people want examples and more longer explanations. That's where Unreal lacks. For example, one of the channels I would recommend is Matthew Watson. I hope I'm saying this correctly, sorry if not. It's a small channel for the big info that he has. I don't know how he's not more known in the field. He has videos telling what every node of the blueprints does. It's awesome, but it's not that he is making tutorials how to make game from start to finish. So I think many people just want that, and up to you. So as you can see, these are the strong points of Unreal. Unity has some strong points that I really envy. I work with Unity too, not as much as Unreal, but I've been forced to program in Unity and I really didn't like it. But it's a personal taste. But what I love about Unity, for example, is making an APK for a cell phone is really easy. It's just a few clicks away. And it's small and it works because the graphics are not so high-end. So all this is good for mobile developing. Unreal, you have to install the SDK, Android SDK, many other small things. Sometimes they don't work. You have to check the correct version. It's quite complicated. Sometimes it don't work. You have to search in forums, so that compared to just a few clicks and works, yeah, no comparison. I love Unity for that. Unity can export to exporting in Unity. You feel you have more options. It's not that there are many options, but I wish it would be easier to make the APKs like Unity and the web export. You can make games to export in the. I think they have a plugin, but it runs. You can see in each I/O there are many examples of game made in Unity there. Unreal has that export, but they are not supporting anymore because it's complicated. Unreal 6 best graphics in, and that's not possible in browser. Browsers are kind of less than a mobile. That web export is really good for for game jams and things like that, or to share ideas to friends, or make a joke. You can make a small mini game about your school or something like that, and share it with friends quickly. That's not possible in Unreal. I heard that in Nintendo, it's easier for Nintendo Switch to export to, because it's not so powerful. Unreal has the main big ones, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. It's quite not limited, but it's difficult in mobiles, and you need a high-end device to play games made in Unreal. Maybe it's not a problem in your country, but in third world countries, yes, it's a problem. Not everybody has a good cell phone. And I think one of the main reasons my games fail is because I couldn't make marketing. Many of my friends told me, your game doesn't run on my device. And yes, I had to choose between changing to Unity or do something else, like making a PC game like I'm doing now. I love Unreal, so I don't want to leave it. Unity is lighter in your computer and in the game you export. If you don't have a high-end machine with a good graphical card, it's not going to run so well, especially with the latest innovation, Nanite and Lumen. That point goes strongly to Unity. It can run easily because it starts in a lower tier graphics mode and it works anywhere. At least in more devices than Unreal. And in mobiles happens the same. You need less requirement for a mobile. Unreal has this idea that technology will get to us, not we're going to accommodate to the current technology. I don't know what to say, up to you. If you want your mobile game to reach more people, you have to use Unity. Unity community is awesome. You can ask anything to them. That's a good thing, because if you have a specific question, there's always somebody who has tried or has experience at that point. A real community is smaller, and usually they don't answer so specific question because not everybody has tried that, or Unreal has a certain way to do things, so you have to do things in order in Unreal. The component system in Unity make it more flexible to apply solutions from other people to your current project. But if you haven't done that in the correct structure in Unreal, other people's solution is not going to work in your project. That's a problem. That structured system helps you in the long run. Why? If you have bugs in Unreal, it's easier to search where the bug is. In Unity, as everything could work in anywhere, anybody, anything, it's more difficult to find where do you screw things. 2D. Okay, Unity wins again. Unity have more tools and more stuff for 2D. Better collision systems and some 2D animation systems. Yeah, it's better. Unreal is limited, but there's always a but. The new games like Square Enix Octopath Traveler, they're renamed HD 2D. It's awesome. They're combining the best of the 2D and 3D worlds. Reminds me of like the structures of games like Final Fantasy Tactics, where they use that. It's really similar, but with better results, because they're using more effects and better lighting, particles, awesome particles. They're combining that with the sprites in 2D, and the result is amazing. Yet you need a better machine for that. But if you want a simple platformer, a Metroidvania or something like that, Unity is your tool. I'm not I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's easier. And if you want to think in time, because making a game is going to take you a long time, you should save any time you can, in whatever way you can. I use biased assets, for example, because I don't have the time to make every enemy as I would like. It restricts you as an artist. I'm not an artist, but it's better something made than something ideal that never is done, never see the light. And there's always a part 2. And if your game is a success in the market, you always can make a better game based on your prior mistakes, solving those, and using, maybe with more money, hire people who knows about particles better than you, better models than you can grow. RPG Maker, okay, that's a big one, but it didn't win as I expected. I was following this news since time ago. RPG Maker is one of the engines that always caught my attention because it was really inexpensive. Makes easy to do some kind of games, RPGs. So it has all the tools made for that, and it has united forces with Unity and created RPG Maker Unite. I heard it didn't went well as they expected. Some players has complaints about it. It's not perfect, but I don't doubt it in the future it will be improved a lot, because that's a good decision. They joining forces to make good RPG games, so it will be an extra advantage against Unreal. Well, I'm currently making a game, Nan Gun, so that's my experience, and that's why I'm using Unreal for that and not Unity. Tell me in your comments what you like, what you don't like about Unreal or Unity, or maybe I made some mistakes. Please comment me and let me know, we could talk about that. If you like this video, please share and share with your friends and like it and subscribe maybe. I'm making this kind of videos about teaching my experience, how to feel to be a game developer in a third world country. Well, I'm trying to be a game developer. I am not consider myself a game developer. I'm making a game, but as soon as it sells relatively well, I think I'll be. I'm my way to do that. So, see you the next time. My name is Casero Juan.